Survival and crafting games are all the rage, but what happens when you add zombies to the mix? Watch on and find out. My name is Thoraxe, and this is Strategy for Busy People. If you've got a few minutes, I'll tell you what to play. Note, this gameplay is originally from mid-February 2025, so there may have been significant gameplay changes to this early access title since then. Another day, another survival crafting game here on Strategy for Busy People. In this installment, we're looking at HumanitZ by UW Studios. I've got just under 6 hours in this game. HumanitZ has pretty much the same premise as all survival crafting games, and, as you'd expect, with a zombie version of it, the same there too. Civilization has collapsed. There are zombies, and you're mostly on your own trying to stay alive. In the case of HumanitZ's zombies, though, one bite isn't quite enough to end your day, and I suppose that's pretty good considering the aggressiveness of the Zeeks, as they're referred to. Things start off as you might expect, where you have little equipment and a tiny bit of food, and you have to start scavenging and making your way through the playing area. Where HumanitZ is a little different than some other games of this type is that the playing area is truly huge. In my nearly 6 hours of gameplay, I barely made it into any of the quote-unquote big city areas that supposedly exist in this game based on the demo footage I've seen. In fact, the first true mission objective, getting the radio tower up and going, I never even got to, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. With respect to survival, you have the 3 expected categories of health, hunger, and hydration. There is also a stamina meter, which can be affected by either how encumbered you are with stuff you've picked up, or because of some other status effect that reduces your stamina. You also have a temperature meter, which probably has some impact on your abilities. I definitely was really cold and annoyed at several points, but it didn't appear to cause any real problems. What might cause some real problems are some of the other status effects you might encounter, like food poisoning. Eating old or improperly prepared food may result in food poisoning, and when you're affected by it, you may uncontrollably stop to vomit. Having to do that while you're in a pack of zombies would make for a really unfortunate encounter. There are vehicles in this game, which is pretty cool, except that vehicles have a number of components that are required to be installed to operate. The usable vehicle that is near the default starting location only had one of the pieces, and I was able to scavenge several others, but I was still missing one, so I wasn't able to take it for a joyride. This game offers multiplayer support, which would probably be a lot of fun, except that I have no friends, so that didn't happen. There is a fairly active Discord, so you could probably find other people to play with if that's your sort of thing. Anyway, as I began to explore the areas around me and realized A, just how slow walking and or jogging around was, and B, just how big the map was, I started to suffer from a typical existential survival game crisis, and you are probably familiar with it if you've ever watched any of the TV show Survivor Man. I didn't like where my starting base was, but it had everything I needed to just muddle through. Every time I built another thing, like a food prep station, it was another stake in the ground of staying put and not moving along. And, as I kept scavenging, piling up food and weapons, and building storage for the additional food and weapons, I just got further and further away from wanting to actually pick up and leave and try to go somewhere else. While HumanitZ does offer quite a lot of base-building machinery in the form of constructing structures, abandoned houses are more than easy enough to occupy. They often have fireplaces that can serve rudimentary cooking purposes, and you can board up the windows, which prevents zombies from getting in. So I never felt compelled to go off and build a real structure because, well, it just hadn't seemed necessary yet. The crafting is generally alright, but a little slow-paced for my tastes. One example is this recent obsession with big and small sticks and logs and wood and so on and so forth. Starting with a standing tree, you end up having to perform quite a lot of actions to get the right distribution of wood-sourced components that are ultimately used to craft something, and Frankly, I find it a little grindy and annoying. There's a certain level of realism that I want, but I'm not sure this is it. I was able to build some crafting stations outside of my house to help me construct basic weapons and supplies. There's a whole system of refining materials like metals and eventually being able to construct firearms, but I honestly was running out of places to store all the pistols I had scavenged pretty early on, so it's unclear why I'd ever want to make anything but bullets. I did encounter a few NPCs here and there that came in two forms: traders and bad people. I didn't realize one of the bad people was bad until they started attacking me, and fortunately I was able to dispatch them quickly. The trading is a bit janky in that you're bartering with the trader and trying to figure out how to maximize the trade to make the trader happy enough to take your exchange offer, but doing so involves continually canceling items and adjusting their quantity until you get over the threshold to turn quote-unquote almost there into quote-unquote happy to complete the trade. Sleeping is a way to restore stamina and pass some time, but personally, not being able to sleep until the sun was up was super annoying. Once your stamina was full, time would accelerate until 4 a.m., and then you were up regardless of how dark it was, and going back to sleep wouldn't result in accelerated time. I also bet that, if playing with other players in a multiplayer setting, sleep wouldn't accelerate time anyway. You can fumble around in the dark with torches or by using your battery-powered headlamp, but both are consumable, and why would you want to risk nighttime zombie encounters when you can just wait for daytime? Again, I felt under no pressure to really survive either on a food scarcity basis or otherwise. Before I give my final verdict, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Agree with me, disagree with me, or want to see other content? Let me know in the comments below. Want to try this game yourself? Check out my humble affiliate link below. And if you want to support me in making more of these videos, become a patron on Patreon. Your support really makes a difference. The final verdict. Some of my criticisms of systems in the game were well heeded by the developers, who were really super active in Discord, and patches are a pretty regular occurrence for this title in its early access phase. If you have a group of friends to play with, the extremely large open world map probably makes things very fun. You do have the ability to pull a lot of levers on the game experience, for example, the number of hours of daylight versus night and other factors. So my guess is that I might have been able to tweak things to make for some more entertainment. The crafting systems are okay, but I get the feeling that hardcore crafting isn't really the point of this game, although I didn't really figure out what the point was, as I never got to, let alone past, the aforementioned first mission objective. On my trademark 3-point score scale of avoid, meh, and I forgot to eat, apples were plentiful, and it was easy enough to kill creatures for meat, but I never got to the point of growing vegetables for a nice stew. I have to give this game a middling score only because I want a little more pace and construction in my crafting games. But if you like a little slower game with a lot more exploration of the fixed map, with some potential for big fiery zombie killing explosions, this might be the title for you.